Well, good afternoon. My name is Bob Heywood, and I am chair of the Exeter and District Heritage Foundation. And I'm pleased to welcome you to the second time that we've had to hold our decoration service at the Exeter Cemetery virtually. And usually every year we gather together and we have a service, and it's a wonderful time of reminiscing and of walking through the cemetery and remembering those who have gone before us. But we're going to use technology this year once again, and hopefully by next year we'll be able to gather at the cemetery. It's such a beautiful place, and just at the outset I want to commend the municipality and those who are kept busy keeping this sacred place so beautiful. It's in pristine condition, and we need to be proud of it. And King Solomon, or Daniel Webster, first of all, defined cemetery as a graveyard, a place of burial. King Solomon, in his ecclesiastical writings in the Old Testament, reminds us of the sobering reason that we need graveyards, that we need cemeteries. When he wrote those beautiful words, there's a time and season for everything under the sun. And he gives a long list of what can happen in one's life, and then he ends up by saying there's a time to be born and there's a time to die. The Apostle Paul in the New Testament reminds us and reinforces the basic truth by in his letter to the church of the Hebrews. He reminds us in chapter 9 verses 27, it's appointed once for a man to die and then to stand in judgment before God. Well, this is why cemeteries exist. We are finite creatures, and each one of us, young and old, and rich and poor, must keep an appointment to cross the silent river of death someday. It was David who said, even when I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. David was a very important man in the life of Israel. He was a king, and he knew that he would one day die also. So he wrote the beautiful 23rd Psalm that we all know. I'm standing in the old section of the Exeter Cemetery, and although it's bordered by two very busy roads, you know, the Dashwood Road, we once called Highway 83, and the airport line, I find it a very peaceful place. Occasionally I find myself driving in here on a nice day and parking my vehicle, and I love and appreciate history, especially local history. And I've found this place to be a treasure trove of historical and genealogical information. You can learn so much on a visit to the cemetery. Dates, relationships, and even some evidence of the character of the deceased. The deceased can be found in the words and the epitaphs that are etched in the stone monuments that stand sedately on row across these many acres. Memorial in the dictionary says it's something that causes us to remember, something that helps us to remember. And these beautiful headstones, tombstones, were put here so that we remember that that person whose name is on the tombstone once lived, once was a presence amongst us, and is now gone into eternity. I have to confess that after I visit here, or when I'm here, after a few moments, I'm so engrossed in the historical experience that I'm having that I'm completely oblivious of all the noise from the traffic that is going by. Not far from where I'm standing, a young lady by the name of Honor Bissett. She was the 26-year-old wife of Richard Gidley. She was the first person to be laid to rest on these beautiful grounds on December 1st, 1864. Just a few months before this young lady's untimely death, the council of that day had purchased 5 acres, a 5-acre parcel of land to be dedicated as a burial ground for the growing pioneer population in the area. Exeter Union Burying Grounds was the official name given, as it was a joint effort between Exeter and the 3 surrounding townships of Usborne, Stephen, and Hay. Ironically, in that very first year of burials, I'm also standing not too far from the tombstone of Exeter's first pioneer that put down his stakes within the community of Exeter. His name was James Willis. He came out from Ireland in 1832. And he's buried just a few steps away. And although he was not the first person to be buried here, he was buried the very first year that the burial grounds were open. Many who are watching this video are no different than myself if your families came here in those pioneer years. I think in the cemetery here there are representations of 6 generations of my own family. And from where I'm standing, I can see 2 of my great-grandfathers' tombstones, John Heywood and Samuel Sanders. We don't know whether they knew each other in Devon. They both came from Devonshire, England, but when they got here, they became almost neighbors, one in Usborne, one in Stephen. And Joshua Heywood married Harriet Sanders, and that's how the 2 families combined. And I can see both their tombstones from here. This is very meaningful for me, and I'm sure it would be for you if you took the time to come and visit your own family plots. Right over there, close to the highway, is the tall salmon-colored monument in memory of Isaac Carling, and Exeter's first merchant, Isaac was, and the Reeve. He was the son of the Carling brewmaster in London, and he made his way to Exeter. And on the stone face, just to tell you how much information you get, on the stone face of this large monument is engraved the names of their many children and who each one of them married. All pioneer names that we know, like Bockwell and Esri and Elliot and Fitton and Mace. And on the tombstone also is important dates, and they accompany the names. And I would suggest that this much information compressed on one monument in Exeter Cemetery would rival what you can learn about the family on Ancestry.ca in 2021. One stone in the first row bears information that whispers softly of that family's pain, but also of the great hope. The epitaph says, "Our sweet children have gone to mansions above yonder sky." That speaks to me of something that happened that was profoundly painful, and yet they had a hope beyond this life. And you're quick to find out that these parents lost 5 youngsters from 1853 to 1865, and with the last 3 dying within 4 days of one another in March 1865. And as I stand there, I can only try to plumb the depths of their profound grief. Perhaps it was scarlet fever or some other pandemic, influenza, that claimed their lives so quickly. Our education continues as we move west in the cemetery to the central portion of the grounds, where we find evidence also of those who succumbed to the Spanish flu epidemic of 1918. Young, strong men in the prime of their life who were taken by that terrible flu. Scripture verses are found on the tombstones, personal prose and verse. The 3 links of odd fellowship, or the compass and the square of Freemasonry, all speak loudly to the lives that were lived and to what they held important in their life. Over and over again, as visitors, we are confronted by the memorials of those who paid the supreme sacrifice in the 2 world wars. I found a tombstone dedicated to Archie F. Hicks. That's a common name, an early pioneer name, still quite evident in the community. Archie was born in 1902, and he paid the supreme sacrifice in 1922 in action over Dusseldorf, Germany. He was a 20-year-old farmland lad from Centralia, and the Hicks family's grief would be renewed in the Second World War. Clifford Hicks was born in 1922, the year that Archie died in World War I. And the words on the gray granite call out loudly, "Killed in action." And there are numerous similar military stones bearing the family names we all knew well. Lest we forget, we must all remember them. Thus, in some small way, we hope this little presentation of history has instilled in you the importance of the cemetery to those of us who remain to live out our lives here. Politicians, doctors, lawyers, farmers, young and old, rich and poor, educated and illiterate, we are reminded of their legacies in the rows upon rows of headstones. These grounds are sacred and they're well worth preserving. That's why the Exeter and District Heritage Foundation, this is a bit of a commercial, along with many of the families and the friends of the Exeter Cemetery, have launched a campaign to replace the iron fence around the total perimeter of the Dashwood Road and the airport line. It's out of respect and a desire of adding an aura of dignity and privacy that we have embarked on this ambitious campaign. And even during COVID, to date, patrons have donated close to $70,000 to the project of replacing the fence. And we would invite you to join us, if you didn't know about this, with a donation, small or large. Each dollar brings us a little closer to the goal. The municipality is able to give a full charitable tax receipt for any gift over $25 to each donor. It's our wish that we will add to the beauty and the pride of this cemetery for generations to come. If you're wishing to be part of this project, you're welcome to contact me or Joanne Bowen. You can look at our Facebook page, the Exeter District Heritage Foundation, or you can contact the municipal office for more information. Once again, thank you for the opportunity to address you today, and I hope that in the days to come, you'll take the time to walk through the cemetery and read the tombstones and just take in the history that's afforded you. It's a special place, and we hope to see you next year on the grounds for the decoration service.